Good afternoon, everybody. Hello, hello. We'll go ahead and get started. It's nice to see some of you on here. I see our friends with Crow and Pure Fort Myers. I see QS Express, Pink Shell. Good to see you all. I know it's been quite a bit of time, but we're happy to have you here today at our second webinar in our three-part series. A couple quick housekeeping items. We ask that you stay muted for the entirety of the presentation. Should you have any questions, feel free to submit them using the chat functionality found within Zoom at the bottom of your screen. We'll go ahead and we'll take a look at those and we'll answer those at the end in our Q&A session. The presentation will be recorded. We're going to have that shared on LeaveECB following the presentation today. And if you registered, we're also going to send you a quick email. So today we have a lot to talk about, and I think it's going to be a pretty fun one because there's a lot that's been happening in the social world, especially in the last year since we probably talked about different trends and content strategy. But before we dive in, I did just want to, again, welcome everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Josh. I'm the marketing coordinator here at the Lee County Visitor and Convention Bureau. I'm joined by one of my teammates, Courtney Hersel, our content marketing manager, and also by my co-presenter, Mackenzie Bromley, over at our agency, MMGY Global. Mackenzie.
Hello. Hi, everyone. It's nice to be with you again. It's been 2 weeks. So ready to dive into a new topic today. And then I am, of course, joined by my teammate who also assists me with all of the wonderful work we do with the beaches of Fort Myers and Sanibel, Austin Bargery.
Awesome. Yeah, let's dive in. New and emerging trends in content strategy 101. We wanted to start off with this quote because I think this pretty much sums up how a lot of us feel with social media at the moment. Without strategy, content is just stuff. And I think we could probably all agree the world has plenty of it, right? So today we're going to talk a lot about that stuff. And we're also going to work to build strategy around it and ultimately increase your ROI, not only on your time, but your financial spend. So very quickly, this is kind of how we've broken down this session. We want to, of course, dive into staying informed. Social media is constantly evolving. We're going to take a look at some of those trends. We next want to talk about making a plan. I think social can be overwhelming for a lot of people, and we understand that. So we're going to try to help you guys all build your objectives and your content strategy based on your needs. Testing is very important. And so Mackenzie's going to dive in and discuss, what happens when something doesn't go well? How can you change that? And how do you measure that? And last but not least, listening is so important on social media. We want to know, how is your audience engaging with the content? Do they like it? Do they not? How can we adjust? So lots to talk about. Let's dive in.
Thank you, Josh. Okay, so I'll kick us off with our staying informed section. So really the most important and oftentimes the hardest part of really developing a sound social strategy is staying informed. I think we're all aware, but social platforms just are constantly evolving. It can seem overwhelming and, hard to keep up with all of the trends and news that are coming out of each of these platforms. But we really want to reiterate that does not mean you need to, take action on each of those updates or, incorporate each of those new changes or new platforms into your strategy. So today we're going to spend some time walking through recent content trends, content best practices, and helpful tips and resources, just really in the hopes that this information can help inform you of, really where you want to take your social content while also hopefully providing some fun inspiration. So we're going to start with the biggest social platform and the platform that most of you probably already are well established on, or perhaps have your largest following, and that of course is Facebook. The biggest trend for Facebook has really been a mainstay for a few years, so this shouldn't be too shocking, but that is of course video. And recently Facebook has dedicated a separate tab in their app specifically to watch video content that is appropriately named Watch. So if you see in these two screenshots to the right, that little tab at the bottom, that blue video screen that has the play button, that's just right next to your home feed that shows all of the content that you follow and that is shared. So you toggle over to that and you'll just see video content. So it's separated out into, lives, music, shows, food. It kind of scrolls based on lots of different interests. Facebook makes sure, they put in that algorithm things that you've shown interest in and expressed interest in. So, today more than 1.25 billion people visit Watch every month. If your video is uploaded via your brand page, not your personal, but the branded page that you do have, it will appear in the Watch section. So there's nothing you need to do additionally or extra to get your video content here. It automatically goes to this tab when it's uploaded. That includes live content as well. So Facebook has really reprioritized live content this year, just given the nature of social consumption. I think with the pandemic, we all know that live content has really become a mainstay across social. They have brought back that live with feature where, somebody can join the live you are in, kind of similar to what they do on Instagram, and other features that really just bring more events to our screens. Because, with the expansion of all these video services added to both Facebook and Instagram, they're just really hoping to capitalize on those new consumption behaviors. As we know, audiences may be wary of large gatherings as this year kind of progresses. So these digital alternatives are really prioritized by Facebook, as we look ahead to our audience's comfort levels. Some additional trends we see on Facebook. One is small business support. So Facebook's really prioritized their focus on small businesses since the start of the pandemic. The most notable feature has really been this Facebook Shops feature, and that allows these businesses to set up free online storefronts. And this is across both Facebook and Instagram, but it allows your audience to purchase directly from the app. Facebook has provided a ton of resources to how to set this up or get this started. If you are one of those channels that, could incorporate a path to purchase on your accounts. And with these resources, kind of the most notable one is this Facebook Business Suite. It was just introduced in September. So I guess we can say last month now that it's the start of October, but this was newly introduced, and it's really just designed to better allow small businesses and those accounts to manage your pages across both apps. So you can go to one spot to really look at your Instagram and your Facebook content, your messages and your data all in one spot. And lastly, Messenger. This is still a priority for the platform, especially, as they have introduced new video chat functions to compete with some of those other popular video chat apps that have become very popular this year. They have a lot of watch together features, so you can start a Messenger video call and watch video content on the platform together. Watch parties. So Messenger will be, something that is prioritized to kind of connect people in this time when, we're still seeking that human connection, should we not be able to see all of our loved ones or friends. Okay, so for a few considerations, I do think it's been made pretty clear that Facebook is still all about video, video on that platform. So here are just a few helpful reminders to keep in mind when building out that video strategy, or really just considering how or what you can share on your channels. So these are really just important tips to keep in mind for video performance across your channel, so across Facebook and anything you do decide to upload and share on the platform. But we do think it's really important to note that every video you post does have the opportunity to be discovered via that watch tab. So here are a few, tips from Facebook that really helps with the algorithm in terms of getting your videos maybe a little higher up on that tab, and maybe just allowing them to be discovered by, an audience that shows those interests but might not be following your page. So of course, number one, don't use excessive promotion. So you don't want these videos to look like advertisements for your business or your product. You really want to make sure they're super entertaining, but also really informative. Creating polished looking videos. Obviously this goes with a caveat that, we understand most video content won't feature this, high production movie worthy editing, but we do want to ensure you're taking time to include, steady video shots, clear video or photo assets, and clear, clean graphics, just to create a really polished feel. And producing several videos. So if you do have a series of videos ready to go, Facebook Watch is more likely to include your videos. I think the biggest caveat for this is this takes time to develop a strategy. I do not want you to take this takeaway as, we're suggesting you upload 10 or 20 videos over the next 2 weeks. But really look at the content you have. Is there, a theme that could tie some videos together from the footage you have or from footage you could gather? And, you know, setting a structure as to how you could share those. So are you going to share 2 a week, 1 a week, even, you know, 2 a month? But as long as you kind of follow that and make that consistent, Facebook, the algorithm will kind of pick up on that and see that you are sharing regularly and you are producing several videos and you are making that a priority. So they're more likely to prioritize that. Okay, so Instagram, moving on, what's trending? I think, you know, again, we all know Instagram is very popular. It has made the largest volume of updates this year. I feel like a new update on Instagram comes out weekly. So even for me, it can be hard to follow. So really distilling it down to kind of 4 major trends that we're seeing and, you know, we're incorporating into our content strategy where we can. The largest being Reels. So this was just launched in August. It is obviously very similar to another app that we will discuss later on, TikTok. These are video clips that can now go up to 30 seconds. So just, I think last week, they were 15 seconds, but they have increased length to 30 seconds. So that's one great update just to have. They're obviously investing more time into the Reels section of their app so they can further compete with TikTok. Stories aren't necessarily new, but users continue to spend more and more time in that section of the app. Currently, people are spending as much time within their stories section of their feed than the actual news feed itself. So it's about an even split of time spent. Additionally, I thought this was a really great stat, but 62% of users do report being more interested in a brand after seeing their stories, which just really demonstrates that importance of using the feature to its fullest to spark inspiration and spark discovery. So additionally, we want to bring up GIFs. GIFs are also definitely not new, but Giphy, the platform that, you know, where you find and source and add those GIFs, was acquired by Facebook this year. So that definitely shows Facebook's interest in making that a more prevalent part of both of their apps, which are Facebook and Instagram. GIFs make it for a fun way to really insert, you know, branded features or your insert kind of just fun, really engaging content into your branded content. So they can be used across Facebook. Most notably on Facebook, it would be, you know, within the post in replace of a video, or in post comments as, you know, responses to any of your audience interactions, as well as on Instagram, most notably through Instagram stories. So on our end, we're, you know, planning to develop even more GIFs that can be used not only in our stories, but, you know, in stories that, you know, you guys as our partners could use and share and you know, incorporate into your stories, as well as any stories perhaps influencers, visitors, or locals could use too. So really making sure that we have kind of these fun features that drive further awareness of who we are and our brand voice. Alt text. So this is a really great one too. Alt text is really aimed to describe with the utmost accuracy what your image is all about. So adding alt text really makes your content more inclusive. So if somebody was visually impaired, they have a really short, succinct copy that can be described to them so they can kind of really understand, you know, what this image looks like, and really describing kind of what's included within this Instagram post. So adding this just really shows that, you know, you are striving to make your content more inclusive. Another kind of added benefit is it really does send clues to Instagram's algorithm in terms of SEO, and it can really pick up on some of those keywords to, you know, expand your content's discoverability. So it's a really easy addition to make, as you can see kind of within these 2 screen grabs. So when you go to post within that kind of first phone on the left, you'll see there's your photo, there's your copy. You just scroll all the way down to that advanced settings. You click that. You'll then be taken to this screen on the right, and it says write alt text, and that's, you know, where you insert that to ensure that it shows up on these posts. So, you know, when you're considering that, even just a few best practices include, you know, don't copy and paste your caption. That will not be descriptive in terms of what your image includes. You want to focus on what you want people to remember in your photo. So what's important in that photo, really explaining, you know, the message and the items in that photo as explicitly as you can. So adding a lot of descriptors, sharing colors. So, you know, if If the water is the color of turquoise, say that. If it's a yellow house, say that. If it's a brown puppy, you know, you want to really include simple, clean descriptors when considering what that alt text is. You can also find this on the Instagram post, you know, or at FT Meyer Sanibel account share. So should you need further inspiration, you are more than welcome to look there. Okay, so a few considerations. So there are many types of content that can be made for Instagram, and one size really doesn't fit all. I think, you know, what you share from the newsfeed to stories to an IGTV or Reels can all look and should be very different. That doesn't mean you have to be in all of those places. You really want to make sure you're keeping your audience in mind. So we really encourage you to embrace those different content formats, you know, test out a few different content types, see if your audience, you know, has engaged with them, reacted positively to those different or new, you know, content types that you're adjusting. You can even ask your audience what they'd like to see more of. So I think a great feature for Instagram stories is asking your audience their feedback. We love doing that because it really kind of provides those insights, you know, we want to get from those who follow us and engage with our content. So even asking them, you know, what would you like to see more of from us can actually lead to some really good insights for you guys to utilize when determining what you want to share on Instagram. Our second little tidbit is focusing on user-generated content. So again, I know we've talked about this in a lot of past boot camps if you have attended those, but now more than ever, that authentic lens that UGC provides is super relevant. You can utilize it to showcase, you know, changes in the travel experience or changes that you're implementing within your service or your business. So it's really great to kind of show that authentic view, interact with people who are sharing that content, and, you know, reshare when it is of good quality. When you do that, though, it's always the most important to ask permission first. So you do want to make sure that you are asking that user if you can use it and, you know, providing information on how you plan to use it and gaining their permission first. And then lastly, because of that trend, you know, incorporating those GIFs and emojis. So used right, both features can, you know, help insert personality and fun into your content. I mean, Instagram's fun. Have a little fun with it. Really explore all of these great features that they have for you to use. There's a stat I didn't include, but I have it written down that millennials and Gen Z are so used to seeing emojis now that when they see messages without them, they seem more cold. Which I personally found that quite hilarious because that just shows how prevalent GIF and emoji usage is nowadays. Again, we do not, you know, recommend going overboard or including just for the sake of including, but if it's right and if it aligns with your message and your brand voice and what you're trying to convey, we say go for it and try it out and have a little fun with it. Okay. Excuse me, moving on to Pinterest. So Pinterest is a great resource for future travel planning. They provide a ton of insights for brands into what their audience is searching for. People are, you know, using this as a tool to plan what they want to do, what they want to cook, where they want to travel, what they want to buy for Christmas. So it's really a great tool to plan ahead. So it's used a little differently and it's a lot less real time than say Facebook or Instagram might be. Also, Facebook and Instagram are really, you know, about your current audience. Discovery is a big component, but you want to make sure your current audience is really engaging with your content. Pinterest is a little different. It's less about your, you know, your audience and your followers and more about reaching people who are actively searching for features and offers that you might have. So, you know, they're using that search bar and actively seeking information that they want to find. So really use that information to guide your content. You really want to make sure you're, you know, helping travelers imagine the future of travel, or reassure them by sharing plans for safety. A few travel trends that we even called out are, you know, just cross-country road trips, so long distance road trips. They've been up 89% this past year. Road trip routes are up 248%. On the flip side, though, staycations, short getaways, and day trips have also surged. So I'll show you a few places where you can find some of this data on your own and really see if you have content that aligns with that to develop pins that could be used to share on the platform. Responsible travel is another one that's really been highlighted this year and has just surged in popularity on the platform. So people are really looking to lessen that impact while still keeping the fun of travel, you know, in their mindset. So zero waste travel essentials, travel stories, eco-friendly travel, and agritourism searches are up a lot this year, and some really fun ones just to keep in mind should that align with anything you have or promote. Additionally, finding balance. So, you know, solo journeys or art therapy activities, things that kind of bring balance to our hectic lives have really surged in popularity, as well as just positivity. And this one actually, I think I just got an update from Pinterest today. I mean, positivity is the name of the game on Pinterest, which I don't think is a surprise to any of us. Searches for positivity have increased by 64% this year, and users are really turning inwards. So physically and mentally, photo shoot ideas I thought was a really great one to highlight because we have so many stunning spots in the destination. But do you have a roundup of those, and can that be something that you could create a pin for? Okay, so how do you, you know, take those trends and implement them into your own strategy? Should Pinterest be a consideration for you? First and foremost, you really want to make sure you have the content to back up your pins. You won't keep your audience if they're not finding the relevant information on the other side of these pins. So for instance, vegan friendly food, if that was your pin, if your audience is interested in that, they click on that and they're not finding a list of vegan friendly foods that you might offer, they're going to hop off. They're not going to save that pin. They're going to find that that was a waste, you know, of their time and not be interested in, you know, kind of digging deeper into the content you do have. You also want to pick an eye-catching image. So vertical imagery really stands out in the feed. You see a few examples here that give context and keep text concise. So it's straight, it's to the point, it catches your eye, and you know exactly what you'll find on the other side of these pins. And lastly, you can incorporate video on Pinterest, and you know that's something that they are welcome and open to, but you don't want to rely on audio. This is a really text-heavy platform, and you want to make sure you're utilizing text on your pins to the best of your ability. Okay, so Twitter. Twitter is sadly the only major network whose audience and ad revenues are expected to decline in 2020. You'll see in this chart to the left, their usership really is going to remain stagnant or projected to remain, you know, kind of flat and, you know, through 2024. So not a lot of growth as we're seeing on other platforms. I will say, if this platform is doing great for you, if you have a really engaged audience on this platform, by all means continue to use it. Just because, you know, the trending doesn't look as exciting or positive as other platforms, if it works for you, definitely don't stop what you're doing. That said, if you are strapped on time, Twitter content isn't really performing well for you, this might be a good time to prioritize, you know, other platforms and focus your energy on those channels that are performing better for you. So in terms of, you know, content trends, video, unsurprisingly, video is the best performing content type across most social platforms, and Twitter's really no exception. So according to research, tweets with video are seeing 10 times more engagement than those without. So something to, you know, really consider and incorporate if you are utilizing that platform and continuing to do so. So a few considerations. Twitter's all about conversation. So you really want to make sure you're cultivating your voice. It's a chatty platform and it really allows you to let your personality shine through. So definitely one that you can be a little fun on and have some, you know, more real conversations with your followers if that's something you're interested in. You won't find as many creative options on Twitter, mostly because it is such a conversation-heavy platform. They do offer things such as Twitter polls, though. So again, kind of similar to stories on Instagram. If you are, you know, interested in seeing what your audience wants to see, or just, you know, including a fun, timely poll about something, you know, that's happening this weekend or happening today, definitely see if those work for you, because they do add a little something different to your Twitter feed than just the typical, you know, copy image type posts. If you do have a copy, you know, conversation tweet that does not include a poll, always make sure to add an image, video, or a gift to boost performance. So along with video, GIFs can result in a 55% increase in engagement. This one is from Twitter. I loved this. It was short, copy was succinct. It tied to a relevant event that was happening, included a really fun GIF that was customized for what they were talking about. Okay, and our last platform, last but not least, is TikTok. So I feel like, you know, it's the newest, shiniest social channel out there. It's certainly made a big splash this year. News for this platform just comes day to day. You know, we got to take it minute by minute. So as of today, you know, TikTok remaining in the US is still a little uncertain. There's various news coming out. There are concerns about, you know, security, which have led to these discussions. That said, you know, TikTok is working diligently to stay around. So especially if you're even considering, you know, testing out this platform, I would just keep in mind these next 2 months, there could be changes and things could happen on the platform that could kind of affect the longevity of it. So definitely, if you are interested in pursuing this, I would really read up on any news and updates that they do have. Set up Google alerts perhaps, just because, you know, things could change in the blink of an eye, and you really wouldn't want to spend a lot of time creating stuff if you know, plans were to completely change. That said, should the app not be banned, brands really do best when they can have the same experiences, connections, and engagements as the community does. So it's not about you, it's not about your brand. If you're looking, you know, to really drive home your brand, this isn't the channel, I would say, to do that. You really want to ensure your content's aligned with the TikTok community, you know, just as much or really even more so than with your brand. Trend culture is huge. So unlike other platforms, it's really all about trends on TikTok, and it really takes time to zone into these popular trending topics. So original creative video concepts can work well, but oftentimes the best performing TikToks are those that are easy to replicate by the masses, and, you know, kind of piggyback or jump on the back of something that is a trending topic on the platform. And fourth, don't focus on followers. So kind of similar to Pinterest, this algorithm takes into account the interactions users have on individual videos rather than your profile as a whole. So if you were to explore this, it's really not about gaining a lot of followers, but it's about producing the best possible videos. And TikTok consideration. So storytelling over promotion. If you're creating content for TikTok, it needs to be specific to the platform and really not promotional in nature. How-tos perform extremely well. So, you know, think about your services and what could be quickly conveyed or explained in under 60 seconds. Music and sound effects are also huge on the platform, and your videos should appropriately capitalize on current music or sound trends. I think this also goes without saying that some of these music trends that are on the platform are not appropriate for brands. And, you know, popular music that might be offensive in nature, you know, potentially should not be incorporated into whatever video content that you do have or share. Okay, so we just walked through all these types of content and, you know, what content is best for each platform. I'm sure you have questions on, you know, how can this content be created? So here are a few, you know, easy resources, mostly free and all really simple interfaces. So you can, you know, use these when necessary for any social content creation. Pablo and Canva are really focused on image assets. So they're easy, simple interfaces. Pablo has a really quick build. It has a little more limitations on image customization, but they do also have free royalty-free images that you can use if needed. I know in the past we've talked, we don't, you know, recommend relying heavily on stock imagery. So that is something to keep in mind, but there are often times where, you know, something specific might be needed and you would have access to that utilizing Pablo. Canva has a ton of great templates that can be used for different graphics as well. And, you know, even if you don't want to use a graphic, I love that you can easily resize assets to ensure channel optimization. So if you have an image that you do want to use on stories and an Instagram post and a Twitter post, they have those sizes right there, and you can upload your images and drag and drop, and it's perfectly sized for whatever platform you want to share on. And lastly, Adobe Spark. So this is for videos. It allows you to edit and create videos with a really simple, easy to use design. This is, you know, not as intensive as heavy video editing tools. This is really for those who have limited, you know, knowledge on video editing. And you can also, similar to Pablo, use your own imagery or search for free images and video within that platform. So here's just an example of what the Canva interface looks like. If you guys aren't familiar with it, I just searched travel. I picked a template. You can change the color of these graphics. You can delete what you want. You can add in your own images into the recommended spots that are seen here, change those fonts. So they make it really, really easy for you. So if you haven't explored it, I would definitely recommend kind of looking into that and just playing around with it a little. And lastly, so it can, seem kind of daunting in terms of, where to look or what to do or what to keep up with. So the best source for these updates are the platform's own blogs or social channels. So you can see these here. Again, you will have this presentation. It'll be on the VCB site after today. So you can find these links really easily. I also love some of these accounts. My favorites are the creators account on Instagram. It shows a lot of creative inspiration for how brands and you alike can, kind of really up your Instagram game. And then shown to the right is this Pinterest creative gallery. So that's Pinterest page that shows a lot of inspiration of, really successful pins that follow their best practices. So a lot of really great things to explore within that Pinterest page as well. Okay, and I think some questions rolled in, so we can get to those before we go into making a plan if there's anything really pertinent. Josh or Austin or Courtney, I don't know if there were any that we wanted to bring up. If not, I will hand it over to Josh.
Yeah, I think we're good to move on. I haven't seen any come through, and perhaps perfect. There was. Maybe I'm missing something.
Well, I don't know. I could have made that up too. I've been busy talking, so forgive me. But yes, Josh, take it away.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so let's dive in. We're gonna chat about making a plan now, what that looks like, and outlining some objectives. So let's get to it. Okay, perfect. So content strategy 101. I mean, this is really a very high level way to tackle building strategy on social. And the best way to think about it is it's essentially building blocks. I mean, the first step, you need to identify and set some goals. What are you trying to accomplish and how can social help you do that? Next, you really want to plan your social content by kind of taking an internal look at your pages and at your content and see what has worked so far, what are some ways you can improve, and what does that opportunity look like. The third step is to really take a look at now yourself and your resources. How much time can you dedicate to creating content? What does that look like? And then you want to obviously determine a cadence. And essentially a cadence is really exactly what it sounds like. How often are you going to be posting? The last step in this foundation is then to distribute and promote, and then see where it takes you. So you're probably thinking, well, what are some actual goals for social? I mean, I think it's sometimes social can be ever changing and it's different than a more traditional role that you might have. And you might be thinking, well, what are some measurable goals? So the thing is you definitely want to prioritize business needs and de-emphasize any vanity metrics. So in the past, when social, years and years ago, when it was blowing up and, a lot of people were really focused on things like page likes and followers, and that has become less and less important, and engagement continues to be top of mind. We don't want to go overboard. Having one or two clear measurable goals is definitely something to consider. Again, let's focus on, quality over quantity. And you want to select goals that you can evolve. You want to compare them quarter to quarter and year over year and see where they take you. Some specific goals that marketers in the social sphere are referencing are increasing brand awareness. And ways you can do that is through just general, perfect. Increasing brand awareness is definitely top of mind. You can also use social to increase sales or generate any leads. A big one is increasing community engagement. Of course, growing your brand's audience. And also, let's not forget about, your websites. You guys all put a lot of work into that. So how can social drive traffic to those sites? The next slide really focuses in on taking those high-level goals and then giving you some actionable items to think about. So if you're interested in raising brand awareness, let's think about how we can increase reach or impressions. Same thing goes for the website. If you have an awesome website that you've spent a lot of time on creating content, whether it's blog content or just informational pieces, let's find ways to use social to drive web traffic. Engagements, if you're looking to increase brand sentiment and you want to create a larger community, let's focus on engagements per post. And again, this one might be very important to a lot of the attractions listening in right now, revenue or bookings, like I said, even our hotels. You know, if you have a booking engine on your website, let's think about how we can use social to increase revenue or drive more bookings. Okay, so you might be thinking too, you know, okay, we have these goals, but what is the next step? And the most basic step is creating objectives. So just really actions around how, you know, step by step on how you can achieve those goals. These should be built to provide a quick highlight to your team. You know, while you're focusing on high level strategy, perhaps you have some coordinators or specialists below you, or even interns that can really help you achieve your goals, help you manage your time with social. You know, you want to create objectives that can change as your goals progress. I think because social is so fluid and ever changing, you want to be able to evolve these objectives to, of course, keep up with these goals. So an example is if you develop and share, you know, a new video asset, and let's just say you're posting one per month with the goal in mind to increase engagement, you know, perhaps it's going really well and you're thinking, you know, I might be able to spend more time on this. And next month you want to actually create 2 video assets to drive further engagement. The same thing goes below. Drive, you know, 500 visits to our website by sharing a minimum of 5 posts with website links. Of course, the goal there is to drive website traffic. But again, if you're finding that these goals are very achievable and you're driving that and you're hitting those marks for web traffic, it's something to consider to increase. So let's, again, not narrow yourself to your objectives and your goals, but create them enough so you have flexibility to improve growth or retract if it's not as attainable as you had originally thought. Social content planning. So this is something I find myself struggling with sometimes. I call it creative block or writer's block. Those are terms I'm sure you've heard before. You know, so you have your strategy, you have your goals, you know what you need to do. But then you get down to writing content and you're like, wow, this is harder than I thought. What is there to talk about? What can I do? So if you find yourself in that situation, it's simple. Let's take a step back and think, well, what's performed well in the past and maybe what hasn't? What content has received a lot of engagement? You know, people commenting, their friends and family to take a look or sharing their own personal experiences. You want to pay attention to posts that you thought would do well, but maybe didn't, and look very closely to maybe why, and then adjust from there. Thinking before you post continues to be so important because you want to ask yourself very specific questions. Is this post going to add value? Does this fit the mission of, you know, my brand, my business? Is this the best format for this post? And are you posting at the best time? If you find yourself answering no to some of those questions, that's okay. Let's pivot. Let's find out why that's a no, and let's figure out how we can adjust. So social content planning is constantly ever changing. And I think being flexible is one of the most important things that you can do. So Mackenzie pretty much touched on all these platforms, but it's always nice to bring this back around because, again, you might have limited resources and you can't be everywhere all the time, and that's okay. Here is very high level of what each platform has kind of over the years come to adopt as some very specific traits about each that kind of make them a little bit different than each other. So Facebook. Facebook's known for information sharing and sharing updates. It's video on that platform. There's also a lot of advertising opportunities. So, you know, there's room there for campaign development and such. So Facebook, as I even saw in the polls, tends to be kind of like our bright and shiny, something that we all spend a lot of time on. And that definitely makes sense for the industry we're in. Instagram, discovery, inspirational photography and video. Instagram started years ago as a place where people were just sharing pictures, and it has honestly been such a player for travel and tourism. And it's really incredible to see the growth here, growth not only among content, but growth among users. Definitely something to keep your eye on. Stories was added pretty recently, of course, to Instagram. Stories, you know, you're providing real-time updates. It's encouraging audience engagement, and it's also a traffic driver. Twitter, as Mackenzie said prior, you know, this is a place where you can share news, events, anything really to engage with your users, you know, further drive home the customer service and directly communicate. Pinterest, known for travel planning, inspiration, it's also a traffic driver. And TikTok. I saw a comment come through that a lot of our TikTok users are very young, and I definitely agree with that. I think that depending on the outcome of TikTok, it's definitely something to keep an eye on, because Instagram too did start back in the day with a lot of young users, and look where it's come today. It's definitely a disruptor in the field, and we definitely want to keep an eye on it. So content buckets are a way to kind of help, I don't want to say prevent writer's block or a creative block, but if you find yourself looking at a whole month and you have 30 days and you've developed a cadence where you're going to post 21 days out of the 30 days in the month, you might be thinking, well, that's a lot of posts, and what does that look like? Well, if you develop content buckets, it can really help further drive home that strategy and kind of keep you on course. So here's an example content bucket strategy that we at the beaches of Fort Myers and Sanibel kind of use to help us develop content as we're going through those weeks in the month. So you might want to break it down to just different events or happenings going on. And you might notice that on Twitter, though you have such a local audience, or you have an audience that engages pretty well with content specific to upcoming events or things going on, you might want to share there 5 times a month. But you notice on Instagram it's a little bit less. You've seen less engagement, still relevant of course, but instead of posting 5 times on Instagram, you're going to post twice. And that kind of carries through each of these pillars. You can see we've modified the approach per platform for travel inspiration, specific community highlights, and deals and offers. So this can be custom to you. It's just an example, but if you find yourself, again, in that mindset of, ooh, this is a lot of content to create, try breaking it down and then go from there. Diversifying content by platform. A common question that we receive is, well, can I post what I'm sharing on Facebook, on Twitter, and Instagram? And the short answer is, of course you can. Again, creating a lot of content for 5 platforms the whole month, that's a lot of work. And I think that ultimately, what your audience wants to see, and whether your audience may be different across the various platforms, there is going to be that common thread, and the common thread is you. So there's different ways to diversify that content. You might have the same image or a similar copy, but there's little things about each platform that you can incorporate to really just further drive that message home and encourage engagement. So on your right, you see an example. This is a picture from our Beach Ready Spirit Week campaign that we ran this summer. And you can see there's a link there. We did include a hashtag. There's quite a bit of copy. There's an image, and we tagged the person responsible for creating this board. On the next screen, you can see we took the same image, we took the same content, but on Instagram, we decided to share this in our stories, and we incorporated colored text. We incorporated the hashtag, we did polling, and we even incorporated the swipe up GIF. You can see that in the third screen, the third image, should I say, which was going to drive traffic, of course, to the blog post about making that board. So it's a different approach, but it's the same content. It wasn't much more work, but we just decided to pull the strengths of Instagram to further drive home their engagement. Staying organized is really important too. If you're posting every day on each platform, you might find yourself, feeling a little overwhelmed, and that's okay. We typically show this every year. We have used a content calendar, a shared content calendar between us at the VCB and at MMGY to create our calendars in Google. It is a great way to stay organized. We include the post copy, the image, if we're driving to any link, the alt text, the location tag. And this way, when we look at the week ahead, we know exactly what's going on. And it's also really easy to keep up with if you need to tweak anything or move some things around or even pause social, depending on what's going on in the social world. So definitely developing a calendar, it helps you stay organized, and you can get ahead a little bit, which is nice. So some do's and don'ts quickly. There's no right or wrong answer with social, but the number one thing is you want to share thoughtful content and you want to prioritize your channels. Take a look at your capabilities and really understand what can you accomplish before jumping on every bandwagon. I think a really good example of this is TikTok. TikTok has been very disruptive, and we've seen how it's changed some of the other social networking channels like Instagram with the introduction of Reels. Things are constantly changing and they're all competing. Just because they push through a new update doesn't mean that you have to drop everything and jump on that bandwagon. Stop and think and ask yourself, is this trend right for your goals or your objectives? And I said this prior, but I can't say this enough. Prioritize quality over quantity. So it's a lot, but you can do it. Let's not get overwhelmed. Social media can change every day, but if you don't, necessarily need to do it all, and we don't need to go overboard. Let's set those realistic cadences and let's not spam your audience with too many posts. The next thing is really important too. You might be running at 100 miles an hour and you're just trying to get that Facebook post out right before you leave for the day. Let's make sure you're posting and you're really taking the second look, making sure there's not really any mistakes or the link is going to the right place and you're giving the right credit for the image. Let's not, get too hung up on the numbers, and social takes time. Everyone does such a good job. I love seeing the content we share, in the destination, and we're here to help should you guys ever need anything. But yep, that's pretty much it. Do's and don'ts.
Thank you, Josh. Okay, so I will quickly go through our last two sections, the third being test, test, test. As we have learned from our first session, not everything you post will be as engaging as you hoped, and that is perfectly okay. In order to test and learn, it's really important to develop concise reporting, making sure you have that, in designated time periods to ensure, you're discovering relevant performance insights and really working through realistic adjustments that can be made to your content. Okay, so to do that, we've outlined a few resources. I did want to highlight, where you can find this information. I would say most of you are probably utilizing those native platforms. So you're looking at Facebook Insights, you're looking at Instagram Insights, et cetera, et cetera. These are all free. They really provide all of the information you need. I am not here to encourage you to purchase something for the sake of purchasing something. So use these. If that's what you have, use them. They will require, more time to gather that cross-channel data because you have to go from platform to platform to download that information. But if you're fine with that, that is perfect. You have enough for free at your disposal. I did, though, want to include Hootsuite and Sprout Social, primarily because we did talk about them in session 1 for social listening capabilities. That said, they also have paid subscriptions for deeper reporting as well. So if you do want an all-in-one tool, these are two great ones that you could utilize. They have a lot of cross-channel social analysis, and they include customizable reports. Here's just a quick example of what one of those looks like. They kind of aggregate data in a way that's really helpful that those native platforms might not. You can even see the type of content you sent here, if it's plain text versus page links versus photo links, comparing month over month, seeing if performance increased when you shared more photo links one month versus when you didn't. So they do provide kind of a nice look at all of your channels holistically and can kind of provide some really good analysis for you that you don't necessarily have to do on your own. That said, again, you don't need to spend a ton of time on reporting or create a report that's pages and pages long and has all of this analysis and you're spending hours compiling. The elements of a strong report are pretty simple. It's really just boiled down to these 3 elements. Progress to goals. So you've established those goals, you have your objectives. Let's make sure you're tracking against them. So including a snapshot of a monthly or quarterly progress to goal is really important. You really want to highlight that social performance and how it's aligning with those overall business goals. And to see if, are you moving that needle forward? Are you moving your channels forward, or have they kind of taken a step back? It's especially important to kind of dig in deeper to see, perhaps if they have taken a step back, what's happening, and figure out the why to that question. Performance by channel. So you want to break out performance across, the channels that you do share content on. As Josh kind of mentioned, you really want to prioritize engagement rate or percent of audience engaged over just the total followers that you do have. If you have a large audience, but they're not interacting with your content, that is something, you'll want to fix, or you'll want to kind of ask why. So you really, we really encourage you to kind of deprioritize total followers and really prioritize how and who are engaging with you, and are they engaging regularly, and are they keeping up with what you're sharing. Also, in performance by channel, it's good to see if there are trends in the type of content that's performing well. So Do, you know, night shots perform really well on Instagram and, you know, activity shots perform well on Facebook? Or are you seeing the same content performing well across all channels? So really seeing, you know, what's doing great per channel or what's not doing great per channel, and how can you take that information and maybe just make a slight recommendation for next month and saying, you know, hey, maybe we'll post more of this type of content on, you know, Facebook and more of this type of content on Instagram, because we know that's kind of where our audience is leaning towards on both platforms. And kind of as I just, you know, spelled out, you want to include those insights and recommendations. These can be really quick, clear bullet points that just show what you've learned this month or this quarter, and maybe, you know, quick action items to help you get to where you need to go, or progress that can be made. Okay, so those elements. Some do's and things to avoid. You want to track that progress. I know sometimes month over month could seem a little daunting, but if you just kind of keep it boiled down to those 3 points, it can take a little less time than potentially you might imagine. And again, month over month is just a really great time frame to see if you're pushing your content forward, because you have a pretty good size of content to report on, and that gives you a clear, clear set of days to kind of compare against the last month or that month of the previous year. You want to focus on the bigger picture. Again, not every post will be a home run, so don't freak out that one post did bad and, you know, quickly scramble to change everything. You want to kind of have this take time, and you want to kind of look at your content a little more holistically to collect a little more data before making those decisions. Prioritize those recommendations based on how well they support your goals. So really, when making recommendations, make it a priority to look at those goals and see what can be changed to help get you there. And then summarizing that plan of action. So you want to define who's responsible for that and a target deadline for, you know, shifting content or adjusting a calendar based on kind of some of the insights you found. Again, don't avoid thinking your platform might grow overnight. It takes time to build this presence. And kind of like I said, you know, don't make those sweeping changes week over week. Take some time to really analyze channel performance on a monthly or quarterly basis. Okay, so for listen, you know, it's important not only in a crisis, but with every social post you share, to listen to that audience. I really touched on this in the last session, so I don't want to, you know, distill too much listening into this session, but did want to provide a really quick way to track your overall channel sentiment completely on your own, which also can help you, you know, provide clear input on, you know, one post or a week's worth of posts or a month's worth of posts, to see, you know, how your audience is interacting with just your day-to-day content that's not specific, you know, to a crisis. And that is net sentiment. So in order to track that, you're really just taking all of your mentions, you're distilling those down to positive, neutral, and negative. Positives, obviously, you know, I love you guys are the best. Negative could just be, you know, a simple statement, I've been there before. That's obviously not negative. I mean, it's not overtly positive, but, you know, that's still a good mention to have. And of course, negative are those not nice messages that people feel they need to leave sometimes. So here's just a quick example of that. You see we have 30 positive mentions, 30 neutral mentions, 40 negative mentions. We divide that by the total of mentions we gathered, which was 100, and we get to a net sentiment score of 0.2. So your net sentiment can vary between a -1 to 1. Obviously, you really just want to keep it above 0. You don't want more negative than positive. That also could kind of tell you, maybe, you know, something's not so great. What's happening? I need to kind of dig into what these comments are a little more to understand that why. 0.2, so that's great because you do have more positive comments than negative. That's still kind of showing you have a lot of negative comments, so that might be something you want to check in on. So we really recommend aiming for, you know, a net sentiment score of 0.5 to 1. This is also great to track month over month. Say in September, my net sentiment was 0.2, but in October we did great and it was, you know, 0.7. So we really want to look in the differences of those comments to see, you know, why we're trending that way or why we might be trending the opposite way. And that leaves us with kind of our final thought of the day, which I'll hand over to Josh to kind of share, and then he can take us into questions if we have any.
Awesome. Thanks, Mackenzie. Yeah, we just wanted to wrap up today and just let you all know that your social journey is never over. And that might sound daunting or perhaps even dramatic, but social media is constantly growing and evolving, and it's becoming more and more important in the marketing ecosystem. It's absolutely not going anywhere. So just like all marketing channels, you want to use your social accounts, and you want to give it constant care. You want to set priorities and focus on your top performing channels. And we're here to help you in that journey. We can't stress that enough. Should you have any questions at all, or feel overwhelmed, or you want to revisit some trends that are, coming down the pipeline, please feel free to reach out to us. So I'm not sure if anybody has any questions. I did see one come down, and I'm going to probably direct it to you, Mackenzie. We had a question earlier, Mac, with Later. It's the marketing platform that allows you to plan and schedule your posts. And so we had a question come in to ask if we recommend using Later.
So I would say, yes, we do. That is actually a tool that we utilize for the Beaches of Fort Myers and Sanibel channels, primarily as a traffic driver, because when you subscribe to Later, you also get their great link in bio feature, which we just love because, again, you can't have links in your Instagram posts, but if you do have more information and you want people to, discover more and to drive them to the website, say if that's your goal, which it is one of our goals, we include a lot of links, within that bio, and it includes a nice gallery frame for people to kind of click through and just dive deeper into any information that we want to share, as well as scheduling. So scheduling, we do schedule all of our content out for our channels, because that is a time saver. Say if you are staying organized, and if you know those 2 or 3 posts or more posts you have for the week, if those are all approved, why not schedule those out? Let's get those out there. We know what times we want those to go out. They might be timely. One might be a morning photo, so we want to share that in the morning versus a sunset later in the day. So scheduling, we think, is an incredible tool for time saving, and Later is really cost effective. So they don't require a large fee. They're pretty nominal, which is great. And they provide a lot of really useful resources. So yes, not included here, because it's a little different than some of the tools that we share, just in terms of all of the other capabilities that it offers, but it offers a ton of great capabilities. And yes, I would recommend that as a tool that you could test out or pursue.
Awesome. Great. I think that was the only question we had. We just have 1 or 2 other quick slides. Let's see. Should anybody want to sign up to receive our This Month in Social Media email blast, feel free to send me a quick email just with your name, and I'm happy to get you added to the distribution list. My email is jlambert@leagueof.com. And a date to remember, October 15th is going to be the third, sorry, Mackenzie, I'm giving you a whiplash over there.
No, I'm sorry.
Our third and final social media webinar in this series is going to be a deep dive into advertising. So that's going to be on October 15th. We hope to see you there. We'll be sending out an email 1 week prior to sign up. So should you need anything, please let us know again, and we look forward to seeing you on the 15th.
I think that's it. Well, I hope you guys had fun. I hope you guys were left inspired. As Josh said, we're here to help. So any questions you have, we'll certainly handle if you do have any follow-up questions after this little session. But thank you all for joining us today. I really appreciate it. And have a great rest of your afternoon.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everyone.